Wow, what a great opportunity here. So before, after she fixed my great sandwich,
Yeah.
before I left, I said, "Hey, I work with an organization that helps people to get out of debt, increase their income, and to have more tax deductions." I said, "Does that sound like something that might interest you?" And she said, "Absolutely." So I said, "Well, give me your information. My wife and I can get together with you and see, if this is a good fit." So it's really that simple. I mean, everywhere we go, every day, people are looking, and I think you'd agree that in our economy today, uh, there is such a need for what we have and for what we provide. So our main message with our organization at this point is financially, is to help people financially, because if you can help people to get out of the mess that they're in financially, that tends to trickle down into every other area of their lives. So that's what we do, really. And we work together as a team. So as a community, we help those that we connect with and get involved with us. We help them to connect with their friends and relatives and associates, and it's just a continual process and program. So hopefully that answers your question.
It does. It does. Thank you.
Yeah.
So, how does life leadership work with someone who is not pretty much well off financially, or maybe don't know too much about finances at all? Do y'all offer any simple steps like budgeting classes to get them to the place that you want them to be to move forward in your leadership program?
Absolutely. Yeah, we have. In fact, we have a program. It's called Financial Fitness, and we call it the green box because it's all green, and the information in it. We have a book. People learn in different ways. People learn visually. People learn audibly. But we have a book that's 47 Principles of Finance. We have a workbook that people can go through and physically write down, information, their budget, and so forth. And then we have audios that they can listen to, as well as we have an online resource with one of our life coaches who teaches through this program in audio as well as video. So, yeah, we've got the whole gamut covered. And, really I want to kind of take a sidestep and go back to when you talk about people who don't have means or don't have financial resources, and go back to when you were a child and the first thoughts that you had about money. What were those thoughts? Were those thoughts of abundance, or were those thoughts of lack? Were those thoughts of I can't afford, because maybe that was a message that you heard, from your parents or your, people that were a part of your life? And those early thoughts and early messages kind of travel with us in our life through time. And so we tend to live out those financial concepts and ideas in our life unless we learn different principles. So I thought I would share just briefly in our financial fitness program, there's 7, I'm going to kind of go over 7 quick principles that I think will kind of help people understand where they are, where they maybe should be, or where they want to go. And one of the principles is one of the first principles is it's not what you make, but what you keep that determines financial success. Pay yourself first and save what you pay yourself, and start with 10%. And you might be saying, "Well, Randy, how do I do that? I've always lived paycheck to paycheck. I've never really had extra money to do anything." And it's not the money that we have coming in the door; it's how we handle that money. Mm-hmm. And so, for me and my wife, it was really tough because I was in my early 40s when I started learning these principles, and I kind of kicked myself because I wasted so much, of my life not knowing the right things to do. But so we started paying ourselves first. We started money that was coming in the door. We started saving that, and it all worked out. We had, the bills that we prioritize and stuff, but we had to start paying ourselves first. And if you don't do that, if you wait until the end of the month and the money you have left, if you put that aside, you'll never get where you want to be financially. Pay yourself first. So the second thing is money is a gift. It has a specific use. I have a stewardship for my family and beyond. Invest in ourselves. Ben Franklin said, if a man empties his purse into his head, no man can take it away from him. And investment in knowledge always pays the best interest. So we are constantly looking at our life and looking, because finances is a big part of our life. How can we be a better steward of the money that we have coming in? Mm-hmm. And how can we, if we're looking at an item that comes across our path and we're looking at it, do we really need that item? Or maybe we wait 24 hours before we make a decision on purchasing that. So, but when you really start thinking about money has a specific use in our life, and we should be a good steward of that because, God has put us here for a reason, and He gives us resources, and we're to be a good steward with that. So number 3 is, and this one was hard for my wife and I, live within your means, always, without exception. And if you're a married couple, give each other a little discretionary money to spend either each week or each month so that you're not nitpicking each other. But we found ourselves in massive debt. We had like $20,000 of consumer debt. We had a mortgage, 2 cars financed. We had student loan debt. We were just off the chart. And my wife, bless her, the Lord has just blessed me with a great wife. She came and she said, Randy, she said, we lost our parents, and we're now in a place where really the money start getting tight. And she said, well, why don't we sell our place, and why don't we downsize? And of course, I put up a roadblock because I was like, our home is an asset. That's what we're taught. Our home is an asset, and we need a piece of property to hold on to. Yeah. And I was against it. But the more I thought about it, the more we prayed about it, the more we realized that, wow, we could really make some strides ahead if we just so we ended up selling everything. We sold our house and everything that we had basically to downsize because we wanted to get out of debt. We were not living within our means. We weren't using that principle for sure. But the more we began to put that into practice, the more it made sense. So hopefully that will help you. Number 4 is stop getting financial advice from broke people.
Ooh, ouch.
Ouch.
They have a lot of financial advice, don't they? Oh, my God.
Yes, and you're going to find as you start doing better financially that you're going to have a lot of critics. And a lot of people are going to tell you what you should do and what you shouldn't do and this and that. But, what we found is look at the people in your life that are giving you advice. And if they don't have the life and the lifestyle that you want, then you may want to consider some different friends or some different people to listen to. So we weren't listening to the right people. We began to find people in our life community and people that were successful, that had the fruit on the tree, and that's huge. If they don't have the fruit on the tree, then you need to make some better choices there. So
before you go any further, Can you explain when you made that statement, fruit on the tree, to someone who may not understand what that means?
Okay. Well, if you're a couple that has kids and you have a family household, the people who are giving you advice or suggesting or whatever that in your life, do they have the same type of relationships with their kids and their wife, and are they on the same path? And maybe it's spiritually. Do they spiritually have their life connected with the Lord? Are they teaching their kids the way that you think the Lord would have you teach your kids? we want to make sure that the people that we are following in our life have the biblical fruit. They are full of the fruits of the Spirit. In Galatians it talks about the fruits of the Spirit. They have the type of values and beliefs that you do. But you really want to look at that, and if they're not, if they come from let me just, I want to be kind of sensitive to this, but if you are listening to people who don't have the same type of marriage relationship, and you just really want to be sensitive to listening to people who are not going to give you the right advice. And especially when it comes to money and finances, are they always broke? Are they always, when you look at people and their finances, do you know that there are people that live larger than they should? Do they live in a house that really is too much? Do they have expensive cars, and do they have things that they're living a larger life than what they can afford? And if so, then maybe you need to look at some other people to emulate. And so we began looking at that in our own life, and we looked at the people that we were surrounding ourselves with, our life community, and they had what we wanted in life. They had an autonomous life, and meaning that they had money and time. And most people today don't have time and money to be able to do what they want to do. They had great family relationships and great relationships with their kids, and they just really sought to follow God and live the type of life that He wanted them to live. So hopefully I kind of made sense there.
Yes, thank you.
The number 5 principle out of the 7 is consistently budget and save for unexpected expenses. Sometimes when you make more money, you want to spend more money. The refrigerator goes out, you have a flat tire, the roof is leaking, you have to, put braces on your kids' teeth. All these things are things that could happen, and do happen on a regular basis. But the question is, are you consistently budgeting and saving for those expenses? And so in our financial fitness program, we take and walk people through that, and walk people through how to look at your budget and figure out, what I'm going to need for auto expenses for the next year, and begin to budget those expenses, because those little things will come up. Number 6 principle is pay 10% of your income to tithing. Now, you may be under the umbrella of paying more, doing less. It's really between you and God what you give in charity and to tithing. But we really believe that it's more blessed to give than to receive. And for the blessings that we give, or that we have received, we want to give back. And so we really believe in tithing of our income and giving 10% back to the Lord. And I challenge you that if you're not doing that, I challenge you to start doing that, because God honors commitment and He honors faith. And when we step out in faith, and when we begin to give and to provide for His kingdom, He is going to, in return, open up the storehouse, as it says in Malachi, and He's going to rain down His blessings. And so I really encourage you to do that. We didn't always practice that, but we learned throughout our life that to give something back to Him. And so we consistently put some aside to take care of God's work, and I know that He's good with that. The last principle that I'm going to speak about of the 7, and there's 47 principles in this financial fitness program, but giving your time, your money, and talent to others naturally increases your happiness. There's no greater joy than serving others. And so when you really think about your life and what you're doing every day, it's not just getting up and going to work every day. it's not just getting up and doing something because that's what you're going to do to pay the bills.